I want to talk about a way you can measure your performance in the kind of the middle third of the game. It it may be like the late middle game and the early end game, but it's an easy way to go. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those if you got five of anything you can count on, use that. Now, what do I have here? This is a chart that shows 2, 3, 4, 5 thousand dollars per capita GDP. This is kind of wow, because in Victoria 3 we don't get thousands of GDP per capita. We get like 1 GDP per capita or 2 per capita. So maybe the way we're counting GDP is not the same way that it's being counted in real life. However, when I was looking at this chart, it gave me an idea because you look at it, you can round them down to thousands. And here's another cool thing. You can see how in 1870, everything's blue in 1870. You've got people like Britain and Belgium, they're around 2600, and France and Germany are close to 2. Scandinavia is a little further back. They were later to industrialize. The USA was moving ahead. They're between France and Germany and the Belgium and stuff there. And then by 1900, wow, look at the US. They've now surpassed Britain, and by 1913, which is usually what people measure right before the Great War began, it's way ahead. France and Germany have closed some distance there, but they're moving ahead, and Scandinavia is now doing pretty well. And you see this growth going up. Some of them, like Scandinavia, is a little more steady. France and Germany is slightly higher steep than Scandinavia. Belgium and Britain are actually leveling off. You look at that growth between 1900 or 1900 1913. It's not as a steep line. It's a leveling off one. And the USA, though, it is not leveling off. It's continuing to swing up. So this gives me an idea about how to measure this kind of performance in Victoria 3. And it's, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Permit me to explain. We're going to need to hover over GDP figures because nowhere do we actually get a breakout of GDP per capita unless we hover over things and then we get the top 10. I'd like to see more than that. But even so, we've got the tiny, tiny print there. Places like South Australia, New Brunswick, Van Diemen's Land, Nova Scotia, New Zealand. These are all places where it's a very small population and they could be producing some very high value goods like gold, for example. And so you're going to have a skewed view there. The first industrial one we see, though, is Belgium, and they're at 3. All right, and this is 1858, so it's almost 1860, but they're at 3. That's pretty good for them. If I look at Mexico, I'm at 1.5. If we were to look over the ones above Mexico, British Raj, they're at 0.47 GDP per capita. That tells me, yes, they have a large GDP, but they also have a large capita. And so GDP per capita, or per head, per person in the population, is going to be low because you take a very large GDP divided by a larger population, you get that number. Not industrialized, not performing as well as they could economically. Whereas with Mexico, yeah, I've gotten up to 1.5 by now. I'd like to get them up to 2 before I make my break with France. And 2 is a very good measure. 1 GDP per capita means congratulations, you've started to industrialize. We're happy for you. 2, hey, wait, you're serious about this industrialization. You're not going to just make a bunch of raw materials and export them to other countries and call that industrialization. 3 is like Belgium in 1858. You're like, oh my gosh, you've got a lot of trains, don't you? And you're doing some good stuff. 4 and 5. What do 4 and 5 look like? For that, we're going to have to jump ahead a little bit here. Spoiler alert, this is my Mexico in 1876, and yes, I took Los Altos. Like, oh, he had a war! Yeah, I'm not happy about it, but I'll explain. Because we want to look at GDP. So let's take a look there, click on ranks, and let's go ahead and sort by rank here. I hit 2 about 7, 8 years ago, had a depression. We're coming out of a depression right now. You can see we have the depression journal entry over there, but we are close to GDP per capita. We have made that transition there. Let's look at Austria. They are at 0.88. Remember, this is 1876, so this is almost 20 years after the previous one. Austria's not going anywhere. USA, they're at 0.9. They're not going anywhere either. Somehow the game failed to realize that the USA has a responsibility to make its GDP take off. It could be because maybe Mexico's better and more people are migrating to me. I don't know. Just saying. My population is actually now more than half of the USA, which earlier in the game it was much less than half. Just saying. We look at Russian Empire. They're dreadful. German Empire. Oh, that's 4.92. That's what a 5 looks like. They are number 3 overall. So when we look at that GDP per capita, gone now are the little places where you had gold production or they were, I don't know, something fancy, and they're just staying where they are. They're still where they are, or they may have dropped out. British East Africa somehow took off, but oh wait, we're making rubber things now, and that's where the rubber is. But like Tasmania's dropped out, Krakow, Grand Duchy of Finland, all these little places making finery, they're out. But Belgium is at 5.2, Germany is at 4.92, United Kingdom is at 4.6, French Empire is at 3.46, so 3.5. We can look at these and say, all right, those of you at 2, good job, keep going. Those that are still at 1 in 1870, wow, go back and restart your game. You did it wrong. You did it wrong. If your GDP per capita is 1 in 1870 and you started as some kind of nation on the map, if you started off as a very backward region, cut yourself some slack. But any nation in the Balkans, Russia, Mexico that start off way behind everyone else, you should be at least at well past 1 GDP per capita by 1870. And if you're at 2, okay, again, you're serious, you're doing this, you want to make something of yourself, you're going. If you're at 3 per capita, you have broken through, you're probably swinging up, and then 4 and 5, those are, those, if you want to do your tier ranking, if you have 5 GDP per capita, you're having a superior game. 4 GDP per capita, you're having an A game. 3 per capita, a B game. 2 per capita, C. 1 per capita, D. And less than 1, F. There's your tier rankings. You could look at it where if you are trying to build your GDP per capita, which is one way of measuring how well you're doing overall in your economy. You don't just have a big economy. You have a big economy that is industrialized with more GDP per capita. So look at the way you're doing around 1870 or so. We can round up to 1890 and just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you're less than 1 implied down here. And that'll grade your performance overall. And if you're not at 5 GDP per capita, and you're playing an industrialized nation like Germany, like France, or good heavens, even the USA, you blew it. You blew it. Or the AI blew it in this case. If you're starting off from scratch like Mexico, Russia, Ottoman Empire, even Austria to some extent, give yourself some slack. Let that 2 be a good one, a good target to hit by that time period, and then 3, 4, 5 should come afterward pretty quickly. But that's what I want you to do to measure your game. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rule. And that's measured in GDP per capita. Now, let's go ahead and reload the earlier game, and I'll get some Mexican history out of the way so we'll be able to, take care of things and actually do the game playing and not just have it be rambling about, stuff and getting cut off in the middle. Now, another way to make sure you're playing a good game of Victoria 3 is to ask yourself questions of restrained role play. How much am I actually staying in character that I had at the beginning of the game, and how far have I fallen? And actually, if you've fallen very, very, very far, don't beat yourself up if you thought, I won't conquer a single country in the world and I'll be as peaceful as a blue jay on the tree of happiness and peace. If you're saying that in 1836, then by 1876, the French must die, the British must die, the Germans must, or whatever. I mean, you're just, yeah. Well, that's actually quite in character with many a nation in this time period. The USA, they got to their everybody must die period a little bit later, but they got there too. As Mexico, I've said I'm not going to conquer any. I'm not going to get involved in any wars. We'll see how that goes. But as far as 1858 goes, yeah, there's a civil war going on, and I saw that and go, oh my gosh, just shake my head. USA, you had a question of slavery, and you could have resolved that legislatively. You blew it. So many other places around, so many places around the world ended slavery without there being a civil war, without there being a massive uprising to try to preserve the institution of slavery. Nearly every other place just said, let's pass a law, let's figure things out, we can pay people off who have slaves, and then just end it. And they did. Anyway, sorry USA. I'm gonna have to play you guys in my next, when 1.7 releases. That's who I'm playing. But right now I'm playing United Mexican States. Orale. And so I'm definitely still in character about not getting involved in other wars, and definitely in character about building the economy. And I have to ask the question: when I look at this and I see we're ranked number 10 in the world, and we just click on that and sort on this, it says if I get up to rank 205, I'm a major power, and I'm at 166. This is one reason why I later choose to build out the Army and Navy of Mexico to increase prestige, to increase reach in the Americas, as well as overseas, to build out trade, with the idea being that I'd like Mexico to be a great power, because the USA, I felt, was lagging. And as it turns out, we saw the future. Oh, they do lag. They do lag. And I'm getting tons of immigrants going into Texas and California, but they're not part of the USA, so they're not coming to the US. They're coming to Mexico. But the idea being that I want Mexico to be a great power, so that way it can guarantee the ideals of the Monroe Doctrine, which were that the monarchies of Europe do not come to America and make the republics of America into new monarchies. Although I do have a duchy of Costa Rica down there. Even so, keeping out European involvement is exactly the thing that I want to be able to do in this particular playthrough. But in order to get to that place, I've got to be able to build out the economy to get to that great power status. You can also get to great power status by having the highest production in particular goods. I think I've maxed out on gold. Yeah, I'd like to work on other things. Mexico is actually, if we take a look at the prestige calculation, it says plus 20 from being leading goods producer. Well, one thing that the French trade area needs a lot of is these financial services. I keep pointing, my screens are all, anyway, financial services. And that's from the Political and Economic Changes mod. Love the mod. I can't play without it now. If someone says, oh, this mod's not compatible with the PEC mod, okay, fine, I won't use that mod. But wait, nope, I gotta have PEC, man. That and mods that tamp down the CPU. But anyway, financial services are a huge piece of the French economy, and they need more of them. I'm making Mexico City to be a financial center. If I start building more of these, maybe I've got a shot at being a top producer in the world. In fact, I am number 3 producer worldwide. Well, why wasn't that reflected in my prestige? I guess it's coming. Oh no, France is number three. I'm number 4, 5. But France has only got 932. I could pass them up and be number three. And then UK and Germany. I'm coming for you. I want to be the top producer of financial services. Make Mexico City in this existence like the New York City of the world, where the global financial center exists. Oh yeah, orale indeed. But I got some building to do. I got some work to do there. And that's going to help build out my GDP per capita. So, this is Mexico in 1858. We're going to take a look at a few other points ahead in the future to see, do I keep to my idea of, staying out of wars? Yeah, about that. Yeah, about that. Yeah, you'll notice that Los Altos is out now. They kept revolting, and I got a claim on them. I had to. Same thing with San Domingue or Haiti. It's now a Mexican-colored area. Mexico is still part of. If we go to the markets, it's still part of the French market. Have not yet broken away. This is about 9 years after the last save game. If we take a look at how Mexico's per capita GDP is, we're at 1.95. So in 9 years, going to 1.5 to 1.95, we're doing good. It's swinging up. And as part of that journey, because the United States, if we can we get a view of the United States here, GDP per capita, they're at 0.9. And you see the big dip where they had a civil war, and then they come back up after the war ends, and then another big dip. They had a crash, and they've been building their way back out. They're just not doing well. Anyhow, the USA is weak economically. The Civil War looks like it broke them. And the idea of maintaining peaceful hegemony in the Western Hemisphere looks like it's going to fall to the Mexican government rather than the North American government, Norte Americano. And what is the idea? That we mentioned earlier that we don't want the monarchies of Europe coming in and messing around with the democracies of Latin America. Well, one way that would happen would be if there were rebellions in those Latin American countries. The rebellion may not be an opportunity for the Europeans to intervene on one side or the other, but rather to say to the winner of the rebellion, you guys didn't pay off your debts during that rebellion. We're going to come and collect the debt. It's a form of vulture capitalism. It's still done today, just not with armies. It's done with credit ratings, but I digress. So one way to prevent that from happening would be to have Mexico get itself involved in those civil wars and then side with one side or the other, back it, end the war, and then make a dominion, protectorate, puppet out of that nation, so that way Mexico has tighter control of its internal affairs. If a war breaks out, it will still send people over, but it's going to have tighter control. Now, why would Mexico be better at this than, say, the United States? Because the USA did this throughout Latin America and had to deal with constant rebellions. Well, the Mexican way is going to be different in that because this is not yet the 1.7 mod, we're not going to be investing in these countries. We're just going to be backing up their government. And so if we don't have any business interests there, we can take a more idealistic approach to which government should be in power. And we want to back the one that is more socially responsible. To wit, we could go to San Domingue and we could annex a subject, but I don't have that mod that makes it easy anymore, so no. We'll just leave them there. They are presidential, so we can't put a regime change on them there. We'll live with that. But yeah, they're doing okay. Again, they keep running up debt. I could take their debt right now. I could, but I think I do later on in the game, but it's just something there. As for Los Altos, it was a tiny country. I just decided no. It had just finished one civil war, and it looked like another one was about to kick off. I annexed them. They're part of Chiapas. We just ended it there. And then for the rest of Central America, British colonies aside, I went. I'm going through and making good friends with them, so that way I could bring them into a customs union once I leave the French. So any country in Latin America that has a rebellion going on, Mexico is going to send a force in, back one side, help them win, and then make them a protector. Because if they're going to have a rebellion, they need help and supervision in staying cohesive. And yes, we want to be able to have independence, but at the same time, this is not just a time of smaller companies forming larger corporations and then larger corporations getting larger and larger and knocking out other smaller companies. That kind of corporation forming is also happening with nations. Look at the corporation of Germany here. France incorporating Africa. Britain taking in, well, what it's taken in. And if there's a smaller country in the path of one of these larger nations, they get knocked over, they get flattened. So forming corporations of nations is a key to survival. If we want them to remain republics, they need to do so under a hegemonic umbrella. We don't have to take them over directly, but if they're left alone and they suffer a debt crisis or a rebellion, that's an opportunity for one of these larger nations that's looking for colonies to come in and start grabbing them up. They're distracted with Africa right now. Africa is just beginning to open up for them. They're just now discovering a cure for malaria. Southeast Asia is next on their menu. They're going to be squabbling there. And if we don't do something quickly in Latin America, we are going to have trouble. Now, the British, if we look at the markets, they've got Brazil, okay, but nobody else really. And Spain's got Cuba because they own Cuba and Puerto Rico. But the rest of these are potentially open markets for for Mexico once we break with France. It may have to do something to ease the British out of Brazil because we don't want to see them become a British dominion. The British already have enough. They don't need a Brazil to go with them. We'll work on that. And it could be where if they have a war with someone else, we ask as a concession going in that we just want a trade treaty. In fact, I am going to do that. China is going to have a brief uprising. I'm going to send over a Mexican division and just say, could you have a trade treaty with us, China? That's all we ask. And we're going to get it. Because a trade treaty is a good thing to have. But this modified form of let's, just little wars. Let's have little wars. That's, yes, it is a step away from no wars at all. But the conditions in the globe have changed from 1836 here to 1867. It's 30 years later, and there's some existential threats to the independence of these little democracies here, or revolving door caudillo, dens of caudillos. Whichever it is, Mexico is going to provide some stability, and we've done that with San Domingue. So let's take a look and see how things appear after Mexico has broken away with France. Or actually, you know what? Let's show how to break away. Let's show how to leave a customs union. We'll do that in this last bit here. So it's just a few months later. I was waiting to the end of the election, and then I was going to break away. And now we're there. So we're working on building a munitions industry. We had to research military technology to be independent. Two reasons. One, keeping up with the U.S. Army, even though their GDP is garbage, their army just keeps getting larger. We've got to get ours larger. So, yeah, we did. We researched military technology so we could get percussion cap, and percussion cap will allow us to research or not research, but to make the munitions factory. And I think we've already discovered nitroglycerin. So as soon as we get the munitions, we can go straight to the level 2 munitions and build with that. But the other things that are going to happen will be that everything that we kind of soaked up extra from the French market, we're no longer going to soak that up. We'll need to make an actual trade treaty with them. But to that end, we also want to make sure we have free trade. And I believe, if I click on laws, we are on mercantilism. We need to go to free trade because, one, we got some guys in our government that like it. Two, we're going to get higher trade route volume and higher trade route competitiveness. And for all the other nations out there that have free trade, we need the same level of competitiveness in order for us to have similar access to goods. We've got to work on that. So, clicky click, we're going to get free trade. All right, so that's the first thing we got to do. Second thing we got to do is negotiate with France and say, hello, Emperor Napoleon. We do not want to end the defensive pact. We want to keep that. Our friendship is at level 80. By ending the customs union, it's going to deteriorate by 30. So it'll go from friendly to amicable. It's still the lowest level of amicable. And having a defensive treaty with them will increase it over time. And if we have a trade treaty, it'll increase it by a little bit more. We'll eventually get back to 80. But we've got to leave the customs union. When we do, we're going to see some interesting things just pop up. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. There they are, all across the top. Well, let's take a look at our market and our trade routes, and we'll sort by revenue. Whoops, other way. And let's just get rid of the ones that are non-performing. Whoa, that got rid of everything. Okay, snap. Oh, no, that's the Dutch market. Okay. What the heck? Why did it go Dutch market on me? Oh, I may have clicked on it weird. Let's try that again. Let's get rid of the ones that don't make any sense. There we are. Okay, now we've done that. We have plenty of convoys. I built out ports before I did this. That's another thing you got to do. Before you go independent, build up your technology, build out your port system so you have more convoys, because as you can see from all the red I have over here, we're going to set up some trade routes. I do have the automatic trade route thing, the automatic trade route mod in play, and you can see I have it enabled. So the AI is going to generate them for me. We're going to let it run for a few weeks and just see how many of these do we actually need to work on. And I can tell you here for ammunition, we're building the factories. I'm not in a hurry to import tons of ammunition. We can wait a little bit on that. But let's unpause and let's see how many of these just clear up on their own. 1, 2. We've got all these people willing to do things. I don't want to make a trade deal with Honduras. I instead want a trade deal with the French Empire. And there we go. Okay, we took about a week, and then we set up trade routes with everybody. And you saw that, and we had proposed trade agreement was thumbs down because we had no trade routes with them. You wait a week, and then we set up a trade route with them, and now it's a thumb up. Do I have a similar situation with anyone else? I've got USA, I've got Germany, I've got England, not Russia. So it's either between France or England I could build a trade route with. I'd like to build one actually with France. We have the historical relationship with them. I feel it makes sense. Just going from a customs union to a trade agreement, I just feel better there. And we'll be able to restore a lot of the things that we used to have from the French, just this time with a trade arrangement as opposed to a customs union arrangement. So I'm going to keep that with them. They're also less of a rival in Latin America than the British are right now. So we'll confirm that. I'll go over to my market and let's clear out non-performing and empty routes. That is one thing that'll happen in this game, with this mod. If a route goes empty, you have to clear it manually. But other than that, we're doing fine. Let's Let me make absolutely sure that was my market. Yes, Mexican market. Okay, good. I didn't accidentally click on something. And let's see here. It's November 21st. Let's let it go to November 27th, 28th, 29th. There we go. Let's let it go one more week here. And I think, okay. Yeah, we got bureaucratic imbroglio. Let's cut through some of the red tape here. We've got to pass free trade. All right. And we'll build more bureaucracy. Okay. We're making great progress here with our other stuff being produced. We now have gone through a few cycles, and we're left with 3 areas where we need to address because the shortages are screaming out at us. Fine art, definitely we need 3 fine arts. So let's import 3 of them from France. Well, we'll import 2, and that'll be good. There he goes. He's gone. Let's look at the engines. We need to build out more motor industries. Granted. Right now, we'll import from France. That'll grow out pretty soon. Let's just go ahead and take care of our ammunition from France. We can go there. How about paper? Do you think we could get paper from France? No, actually from the American market. Oh, wait, no, there it is. French market, $7.50. We'll take that. And we'll take some American market too. Why not? We need good markets make good neighbors. For explosives, this is one we may need to build out some more in because we can't import enough of it. And lead, we could build out, after we're done importing from France, we can build out the lead there. And those are things that we're, looks like, yeah, engines, paper, these are the things that we want to increase our production of, and probably also some more ports so we can get more of these things built out here. And now people are moving from Galicia to Texas, and we're doing all right there. And now we've got minimal shortages over here. These are going to clear up over time. We can build more factories. We're on the path that we need to be on in order to become a great power. We've broken with France. We've started to look beyond our borders to take care, because it's if we don't, someone else will, and we feel we can do a better job. I know the USA said the same thing, but maybe in this time we will do it. And Mexico progresses and prospers. We're having an economic boom right now. What could possibly go wrong? I'm glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked. Now we're up to where my game is right now. And yes, Venezuela had a bit of a internal squabble. Mexico to the rescue. They're now a dominion. They look so cute. They're colored Mexican. If we take a look at the Mexican market, well, we got Central America in. Like to bring in New Granada. We've worked them over. Let's get rid of the market view and into the Happy Times view there. They still don't want to be in our customs union. There's something missing there. But we'll find a way. And when we do, we'll get them in and be able to talk about having a canal there. We've got plenty of our bureaucracy. We could do it. We just need to have the right technology there. But yeah, what could go wrong? Well, we're having a economic bust right now. It's been going on for some time. This depression has happened for, a few years. We're now at 51% done with it. We're making our way through, but it's woof. As far as actions, we've lowered our interest rates as much as we can. We cannot yet do any minting because we haven't yet researched mutual funds. You need that technology to do some minting there. We got people trying to get us to do laissez-faire. I like intervention better. It's low support. They have no police. But we did have a change of government. That's why it looks so terrible here. We're at 36. Because the landowners are out. In fact, they're marginalized. The army is marginalized. They're like trade unions and independent workers, except the workers are going to grow in strength. The Catholic Church is still strong, and they're out of government. And even though we're in a depression, I could do some things to take advantage of this because remember, in a depression with the PEC mod, people are desperate. They will pass laws more rapidly. And the ones that I see out there, once again, no police, laissez-faire, I'm not crazy about those. Although no police, I mean, yeah, if it makes them happy, we could do that. Let's just take a look at that. I'm not going to enact it yet. If we did go to no police, we would make the petite bourgeoisie, armed forces, and landowners angry. They just oppose it, but they're not going to go into rebellion. But let's go back to that Catholic Church. This is where we're going to be able to really break free of their strength because we've got charity hospitals and religious schools and just above my head there, state religion. These three things give the Catholics incredible power here in Mexico. And this is where we're going to go into the next episode, where I risk having a Cristero war. When the government of Mexico decided to reduce the power of the Catholic Church tremendously in 1917, and not just reduce, I mean, it was trying to break them, to take over the property that they had, to make large gatherings outside illegal. When the Pope visited Mexico in an open-air coliseum for all the soccer, the soccer stadium filled with Catholics waiting to see the Pope, that was in violation of the 1917 Constitution. The authorities of Mexico just said, we won't enforce it. Come on, Pope, you're okay. But he was still, technically in violation. Am I going to go that far? Am I going to actually do state atheism? I don't want that. I personally don't like that idea, but state religion I don't like either. I want to have some plurality. I want there to be freedom of conscience. And that's what's going to be in the next one. Will I have a Cristero conflict? In this one, we talked about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rule. We talked about playing in character and what to do when you bust out of somebody's customs union. And I hope you remember those three things, and you can refer back to this as needed. And until next time, may all the diplomatic plays you do go your way. May you not get cut off in the middle of